Namaste, Pranam, Gita Dhyana. Om Parthaya Pratibodhita Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Ritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva Manusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim. Oh Bhagavad Gita, with which Lord Narayana himself gave enlightenment to Partha. The ancient sage Vyasa included it in the Mahabharata. O goddess, showerer of the nectar-like knowledge of non-dualism contained in your 18 chapters, O my affectionate mother, the destroyer of rebirth, I meditate upon thee. Krishna Vandana. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramartanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Son of Vasudeva, the slayer of Kansa and Chanur, extreme delight for Mother Devaki. O Lord Krishna, the supreme teacher of the universe, my salutations to you. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the 17th adhyay of śraddhā yoga, the yoga of threefold śraddhā. And the chapter has started with Arjuna putting up a doubt to Krishna, having heard from Krishna that ideally we should follow the scriptural injunctions while performing anything. We should follow the code given in the Shastras. You should do this, you should not do this. And having heard that, Arjuna has thought over it, thought over this teaching of Sri Krishna, and suddenly he got a doubt that supposing somebody does something very wholeheartedly, with all the Shraddha, with all the dedication, with all sincerity, but that person is not aware to the scriptural injunctions. What happens of such person? The Lord has said that you should follow the ordinance of the scriptures. Now, if someone is not aware of the scriptural ordinance, what is written there in the books of the Shastras, but that fellow performs everything meticulously with all the dedication, with all the sincerity, with all the faith, with all that Shraddha that he has for performing that thing, whether it is worship, whether it is a task, whether it is an activity. Now, what happens of such a person? That is what Sri Krishna was asked by Arjuna. Does this act which is performed with full dedication and sincerity, with Shraddha, does it fall in the category of being a sattvic or a rajasic or a tamasic? What is its nature like? Is it one of sattvika, sattva? Is it one of rajas, or is it one of tamas? And then addressing this doubt, from the second shloka onwards, Sri Krishna has started answering Arjuna's question. And not only that question, Sri Krishna is going to answer a whole lot of other doubts which might crop up in the minds of aspirants when they keep on thinking about Sri Krishna's teachings in the previous adhyay of the Daivasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. That how the asuri tendency people, how the people with demonic tendencies, they throw away all the injunctions. What is to be done, what is not to be done, they throw away all those codes of conduct, and they start behaving in a very arrogant manner, the way they want like. But the people, the aspirants who are divinely oriented, who are on the path of liberation, who are on the path of that moksha, nirvana, they perform all the activities as mentioned, as ordained by the scriptures, by the Shastras. They know what is to be done. They have that code of conduct, of morality, of immorality. They have code of conduct of the ethical things, of the unethical things. They have that code of conduct of the righteous things, of the unrighteous things. They pick up only the things which are meritorious, which are righteous, which are permitted to be done by the Shastras, the ethical things, and they shun. They kind of just ignore the things which have been cautioned by Shastras, which are not to be followed at all. And like Sri Krishna's advice in that Daivasura Sampadvibhaga Yoga, that they don't look at those three gates of the hell. They don't look at those three gates of the lust and anger and greed. The Kama, Krodha, Moha, the Lobha. These three gates are outbound for them. They don't go there at all. So now with this question of Arjuna, that what happens of such people who don't follow the scriptural injunctions, the ordinance of the scriptures, but they perform everything with their whole heart, with their full śraddhā, with their full devotion and dedication. When they do such thing, does that act, does that thing which they do, does it fall under sattva or rajas or tamas? Now Sri Krishna has addressed that saying, Trividha bhavati śraddhā dehinam sa svabhavaja. Śraddhā Trividha bhavati. Even the Shraddha is of three folds, Sri Krishna says. The blessed Lord said, Shri Bhagavanu vacha, Trividha bhavati Shraddha. The Shraddha is of threefold. Shraddha of whom? Dehinam. The Shraddha of this indweller becomes threefold. Based on what? Sa svabhavaja. Whatever is the inherent nature of that Jivatman. That inherent nature which this Jivatman has been accumulating through all these myriads of births. The innumerable births that this Jivatma has been traveling in this creation from one body to another, to another, to another, to another. In all the bodies, this Jivatman, this Dehinam, has been accumulating the account balance. And with every death, when the next birth comes, that account balance gets carried forward. That is the Swabhavaja. Now, depending on that Swabhavaja, what kind of nature, what kind of inherent nature is being carried forward? The Shraddha in this Jivatman, in that birth, it gets begetted. Now, Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Shrunu. And Sri Krishna says that the Shraddha of such a Jivatman also takes up the nature of being a Satvika, being Rajasika, or being Tejasa. Predominant with the Sattva Guna or the Rajo Guna or the Tamo Guna, depending on the inherent nature of that Jivatman. The Shraddha also takes its form in these three ways. And now that is what Sri Krishna is going to tell us further about it. Cha iti tam shrunu. You hear about it now. So this is the third shloka that we are going to read. Sri Krishna is going to further elaborate on this Trividha bhavati Shraddha. How this Shraddha becomes threefold. How it takes the forms of being a Sattvika, being a Rajasika, being a Tamasik. So Sri Krishna further tells us, sattvānurūpā sarvasya śraddhā bhavati bhārata śraddhāmayo'yaṃ puruṣah yaha yacchraddhaḥ sa evasaha. Very, very, very clear statement by Sri Krishna, and this is a kind of an eye-opener for all of us, that how our doings in life, they are reflecting our future course. The things that we do in every life, how that determines the future path which is drawn for us. Sri Krishna says, sattvānurūpā. Sattva is basic nature. Anurūpa, in accordance with, in line with, attuned to that inherent nature. Sattva anurūpa, sarvasya, of all the beings, of each and every being, depending on that inherent nature, in accordance with his or her inherent nature of all the beings. It is not just for Arjuna or for Pandavas or for Kauravas. No, this is for sarvasya, for all the beings. Śraddhā bhavati bhārata, O Bharata, O Arjuna, for all the beings in accordance with their inherent tendencies, their inherent sattva, their inherent nature, the Shraddha sprouts. Shraddha bhavati. Shraddha takes place in all the beings depending on their inherent nature. śraddhāmayo'yaṃ puruṣah. śraddhāmayo'yaṃ puruṣah. This puruṣa, man of a typical nature, that will bring out the type of Shraddha. Man is of the nature of his Shraddha. So this is what Sri Krishna now is telling about the three aspects, the threefold manipulation of the Shraddha. śraddhāmayo'yaṃ puruṣah. Yaha yacchraddhaḥ sa eva saha. Yaha yashraddha. What his faith is. What his faith is, what his Shraddha is, that verily that person becomes. So what a person accumulates through all the births, if that person is accumulating the sattvic properties, if all his doings are in tune with the sattvic traits, the sattvic attitude, automatically that person in the next birth will have the sattvic Shraddha. If in a birth, if that person, if that jivatman, if that dehinam is tuned with the rajasic way of functioning, rajasic way of working, activity, do this, not worry about, okay, whether I am going to get liberation or not, but I have to do it. He will do it either with the spirit of getting name and fame, or even he may get into that activity to just perform that activity without any intention, without any aim of getting name and fame. But still, that person will be grossed in the activity. Now, such a person of the rajasic tendency will automatically beget the rajasic Shraddha. And same thing happens when that attitude, when that sattva is predominantly of the tamasic nature. When that inherent nature is predominant of the tamas, then that Shraddha will also be the Shraddha will also be of a tamasic nature. Shraddha of every man, O Bharat, is in accordance with his natural disposition. O Arjuna, O Bharata, every person begets Shraddha as per the natural disposition, as per the naturally inherited tendencies from birth after birth. Man is of the nature of his Shraddha. What his Shraddha is, that verily he is. If it is a sattvic Shraddha, that person is a sattvic in nature. If the Shraddha is rajasic, then that person is rajasic in nature. If that Shraddha is tamasic, then that person is tamasic in nature in that birth. So this is what Sri Krishna has categorically told about how the Shraddha of the person. Now, because Arjuna asked that if he does it with Shraddha, and Sri Krishna says, don't consider it just a blind Shraddha. Even the Shraddha is of threefold. And what type of Shraddha it is, that person's inherent nature determines what kind of Shraddha it is, and based on that Shraddha, the man in that birth the being in that birth starts behaving accordingly. Free will comes increasingly into play as beings evolve in existence. As we come into existence, as we start doing our activities, the will aspect of ours, it comes into existence depending on our nature of evolution. If we are evolved on this path to a very, very high level where there are no desires, where there is no influence of lust and greed on the performance of the activities in that birth. If such a kind of pure life is led, then automatically the will kind of individual will, the free will that is so supposed to be there with each and every being, there is no free will then. There is only the one will, and the will of the Lord. There is only one will, that is will of the mother. Everything is taken into account in that perspective. What is the will of the Lord? What is the will of Rama? What is the will of Kali? That is what the aspirant then starts behaving. So, Shraddha of a man manifests itself in various channels. And the way we start behaving, more and more we depend on the will of the Lord. Our intrinsic nature starts changing towards more of the sattva guna. More of the sattva gets predominant, more of sattva gets accumulated. And the moment that sattva predominates, automatically the shraddha that begets, that shraddha that originates in such a person is also of the sattvic nature. And then whatever is done by that person is nothing short of purity itself. But what is done by the person with the rajasic shraddha, it has got to have the connection, it has got to have the influence of that rajoguna. All those activities, they will be focused not on the liberation, but of just performing the activity. May I get name and fame. Maybe I don't get name and fame, but I have to do this activity. That kind of compulsive behavior. I have to do it. I have to do it. There, in that rajasic state, I doesn't get lost. I remains. That egotism remains. Maybe the person is not hankering after name and fame, but that attitude, that thought of I must do it, that always remains. And if the behavior is more of the tamas type, if it is a derogatory behavior, if it is a kind of a wretched acts that are being done, even that shraddha gets that kind of attitude. It is like the air. It is like the air which, if it passes across a rose garden, the air will be so smelling, such a pleasant smelling air. But if that air is passing on a neutral kind of thing, there won't be any smell, there won't be any refreshing fragrance attached to that air. And at the same time, if that portion of air is flowing over some kind of a dirty material, the garbage, the drainage, automatically that air will also carry with it the smell of that dirt, that dirty smell, that repulsive smell, that smell which is not liked by anybody. So that is exactly the nature of the shraddha also. The inherent behavior determines which type of shraddha. And mind you, the shraddha is the forcing factor for us to do anything. If it is a sattvic shraddha, the person is bound to do the things that are predominant with the sattva guna. Nothing but purity. If it is a rajasic shraddha, then that person is bound to do all the various kinds of activities, and there is no and to come out of that net, to come out the grasp of that field of activity. There is no thought of liberation, there is no thought of mukti, there is no thought of nirvana, just I have to do it, I have to do it, I have to do it. And what about the tamas? It is absolutely no. That is also Shraddha, no doubt. But it has got that tamasic attachment to it. That Shraddha has got that the influence of the tamoguna, which is predominating it. And with that predominant tamoguna, with that predominant tamas, the person is again bound to do all those kind of wretched and evil and uncalled for, unrighteous things. That also he will do most dedicatedly. That is the beauty of Shraddha. So, it depends on what we carry with us in our bank accounts, in our passbook. At the end of one life, how we start the next life, how that carry forward of the balance account. If it is a positive, it goes positive. It is a negative, further negatives keep on adding to it. So Sri Krishna says that beware of this reality. This is how Shraddha bhavati, O Bharata. The Trividha, the sattvānurūpā sarvasya. This Trivida Shraddha, this takes shape depending on the nature of the person, depending on the types of inherent nature that the person is carrying forward from previous birth to next birth, to next birth, to next birth. So that was the third shloka, Sri Krishna further explaining to us this the kind of mystery, this kind of how this Shraddha starts begetting in the beings after they take up a new body. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Jai Thakur. Jai Ma. Jai Swamiji.